Welcome back, everybody, to another Intentional Success Monthly webinar. Today, we're going to talk about the completely transparent large event proposal. But that's not what we're going to talk about the entire webinar, because that's just a very small piece of understanding how to do pricing, how to do profit. We're going to learn a lot about the components of this. My clients, my Jumpstart attendees have heard all of this recently. You're going to hear a very important piece of it, help get you on that journey to where you need to be more effective in communicating value to your customers and preserving your own gross profit, which is everything. I will just say revenue doesn't matter. Revenue is not important. All that matters to you is gross profit. So let's learn how to make some gross profit so we can grow our companies, make some money, all that good stuff, have fun doing it. I am, of course, your host, Tom Stimson. You can email me at tom@trstimson.com. I do not get too many emails. People say, well, I was afraid to email you and ask you a question. No, ask me a question. I'm one of those people who has a zero inbox, right? I will respond to you. So if you got a question, if I can help you with something, that's what I'm here for. If there's something bigger I can do for you, we'll certainly have an opportunity to talk about that. But, it doesn't cost anything to ask me a question. So don't hesitate to reach out and do that anytime you feel the need. Like I said, I'm a little crunchy today. Just got back from San Diego working with one of my intentional success clubs. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I want to give you a heads up on some things that are coming. June 11th is a masterclass on strategic growth. Masterclasses are for owners and principals of the business. It's invitation only. We don't accept everybody who wants to come. It is a think tank. We have space for new attendees each year, but each year that we do it, the space for new people gets smaller and smaller because so many people are returning attendees, and we are limited in size. We are at 25 people allotment. That's the right size to do this event at. And our topic changes every single year. So if you're interested in this, you can find a link to the page that talks more about it in any email I've sent in the past 4 weeks, or you can just reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with you about it or share you the link. But then there's an application process, and we'll have a conversation about where you fit in and whether this is a good investment for you and for your time. But I'm very much looking forward. The location is secret. Not going to tell you where the location is, except that it is in Las Vegas right before InfoComm opens up. And it'll be Tuesday, June 11th. Jumpstart. We just finished Jumpstart selling in Atlanta the week before last. Had a nice turnout. Had some very, very lively discussions. Some great ideas got bandied about. So Jumpstart planning. So we know that there's the selling sphere, the planning sphere, the administration sphere, and then there's an execution team that is outside of the core running of our company. We're going to talk about planning and a little bit about execution at Jumpstart, because execution is our internal customer. I'm not going to tell you how to do a show. You guys all know how to do shows. I'm going to tell you how to get shows done. And planning is how we get shows done. This is going to be a very popular event. You can get the lowest possible price imaginable right now until Friday night. So if you're interested in this, now is the time to register. The price is going up. I've got a reminder at 10 o'clock on Friday night. The price is going up to early bird pricing. Right now we're at super early bird, so we'll go to super early bird. On July 1, the price goes to $1,200. So spend less, do it. We've got room for lots of people. I don't care how many people come. We had 120 the last time I did Jumpstart operations in 2019. Bring it on. We want all of you. So, and what else do I got to talk about? Intentional Success Club. Just got back from San Diego. We also had one of my Intentional Success Clubs meet in Atlanta right after Jumpstart. We meet every month on Zoom, but twice a year we come together in person. We spend a day and a half going down all the rabbit holes that we need to go down, working on what each individual company needs help with. It is a true peer group. There's lots of input. It's not all just me spewing stuff. And this is a great team of people. They do business together. My clubs do business with each other. And they're all working on their business actively and applying the stuff we learned. So let's say, all right, today's webinar, completely transparent large event proposal. One of the questions I hear most often is, hey, Tom, we did line mute and we did a scope of work proposal, and the client said, hey, this all looks great, but would you send me all the details? We need to see what each item costs. And it's frustrating and it's annoying, but for certain customers, this is how they need information. I'm going to show you some methods for figuring out the value of what you're going to do so that you can put a price on it, so that you can give them all the detail they could ever want, right? If they want granular detail, give it to them, but make sure that you are protecting your margins in the process. So we're talking about this webinar because, one, our rental pricing systems are just silly. They're ridiculous. I cannot believe that every one of my clients does shows for a living, and every single one of them uses a rental pricing software platform. They use their rental management, their inventory reservation system in order to put together a quote built from rental prices. How did we get here, right? So there are some of you who are doing things slightly different, and I am perfectly aware of that, right? But for most of us, we are stuck in a rental pricing mindset and mentality, and we've got to stop it. So rental prices deflate value, they commoditize your services, and they blur differentiation. I mean, we are smarter than this, and it is time that we got over this. Now, to get there, we need to understand balance, right? Balance, oh, wait, book plug. Balance is the concept is that there is a correct organization for the business that you're in for what you're trying to do. There is no best practice in our industry about how many people you need to have, what the org chart looks like, and what the roles are. However, there is a best practice about making money. The best practice is you should be making it. And the best way to make money in this business is have balanced organizations that do not have excess overhead. So I talk about selling, planning, and administration as the three spheres of the business. I need selling, which is marketing, business development, design, estimation, proposal writing, and account administration or account management, right? Planning is planning to get the job done. Everything it takes to get the job done. Do we need drawings? Do we need scrub orders? Do we need to do sub rentals, book travel, hire people? All that stuff that we have to do in order to get the gear out the door or out of somebody else's door to the right place in the hands of the execution team that is going to do the show. Administration is what keeps everything else working so we can do these things. All right. These three teams work together. They do overlap. The information that is shared through all of this is extremely important in the process and key to making money. But everything that I teach now going forward is built on this model. I don't talk about sales anymore. I don't talk about operations anymore. Okay. Operations, well, one, sales and operations are incompatible by design. These were silos that were created, right? So operations is going to protect the granularity of how we do things, and sales is going to fight to get their customers exactly what they want. And it's a silly, silly system, right? Balance is all about doing shows. Anybody can do a show. Balance is not about doing shows. It is about getting shows done. And balanced companies look at proposals differently. Rental concepts do not belong in shows, right? When we start talking about durations and discounts and rental rates, and that's not what a show is. A show is not the sum of the parts. A show far exceeds the sum of the parts. And you're not in the rental business. If you do shows for a living, you're not in the equipment rental business. You're in the GAC business. You're in the cable and accessories business. All this stuff, you could rent the gear anywhere. It is easy to get all the big boxes. Make a few phone calls, truck shows up, you got all the big boxes. It's the GAC that does shows. All the stuff that interconnects it, all the stuff that makes it work, all the stuff that provides the fit and finish and the decor, and make sure it operates smoothly. That's where the value is. You don't have to own the video projector. You don't have to own the sound system. but you better own the stuff that makes it work, because that's what getting a show done is all about. So with that said, let me get into some of the other points I want to make here. When you have an opportunity to quote a show to a buyer, you need to match your estimate to the buyer. This is not just matching the proposal type to the buyer, right? You can have 3, 5, 8, or 10 different proposal templates, depending on the situation, how the customers want to see that. That's fine. Your estimate, the numbers also need to match the buyer, because people buy differently. How you get to the number you present can be proprietary. Your costs can be proprietary. Your prices are not. Your prices are public. Everybody knows what your prices are. We also know that you don't adhere to your prices, which is part of the problem. But costs are something that are different for each one of you, right? When you're looking at opportunity, you assess the available margin based on what that buyer is expecting, what your capacity is, and how much risk you think is that time. Yes, this is dynamic pricing, right? In most worlds, prices change depending on demand, right? Our industry, which is very seasonal, should of course be priced on demand. There is no precedent for pricing unless you have two jobs that occur at times that are identically risky, but risk changes every year. So it's very hard to say that this show is worth the same thing year after year after year, because the dates change, the demand, the microeconomic changes, the macroeconomics change, your costs change, your risk changes. Present the estimate the way the buyer wants to see it, but you need to understand what your costs are, how much money you need to make in order to determine what that price is. And then, and I will show you specific examples here, only provide variables the buyer needs to control, right? The buyer may want to see all your line item pricing because that's the kind of buyer they are, and you need to meet them where they're at. That doesn't mean that they're going to control it. Okay? You need to tell them what number they can control. Every pricing system has a controllable variable. That is what we negotiate on. So you may have to present a 7-page line item list with prices for everything. That doesn't mean you have to negotiate prices on a line item basis. Here's how we get to our price. Here's the variable that you get to negotiate with. Okay. Rental quoting, just to put this in a little perspective, rental pricing is pretty static. I often meet companies who've had the same rental prices on key items for 5 or even 10 years. You know, I've seen until recently labor prices that hadn't changed in 10 years. Okay, rental pricing is very, very static. It also is not very informative. Now, we can do some things with rental pricing, is that we can put line mutes, or we can put them in groups, or define little systems and things. But at the end of the day, we're still putting a rental price in front of somebody. We can apply discounts. We can say, oh, this job is longer, it costs more. This job is shorter, than it costs less, blah, 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 blah. And we can have terms and conditions to say, hey, if you pay by credit card, I want to charge you more. Or if you pay by check, I'll charge you less. Okay. This is a very transactional approach to something that is not a transaction at all. This is a very valuable service, a very complicated service that we're putting together. Now, show quotes, on the other hand, are about providing a series of capabilities. We're going to explain them through a scope of work. And if we make service adjustments in the scope of work, that's going to affect everything else that you see here. We can include things and we can exclude things, which will add or decrease the value for you and for the customer. These are value adjustments. We can, of course, duration is going to affect things primarily because of people. You need talent longer, it's going to cost more. Does it cost you any more for the gear to be out in the field an extra day? Honestly, no, it doesn't. So there are rental adjustments that are kind of built in here. There are taste adjustments, right? We've got uplights. Would you like the colors to change? That's fit and finish. We can give you some more flexibility. And then there are pricing adjustments, which are terms and conditions, which don't really matter necessarily to the people who are having the show done for them, but for the economic buyer, the procurement department, or the finance department, a point or two here or there could make a big difference to them. So a show quote is a much more complex animal than a rental quote, which is probably why some of us are afraid of doing it. Some other things to keep in mind here when you are putting together a proposal, when you're putting together an estimate, not just a proposal, start with talent. If your first inclination is start adding in gear, okay, one, that's rental thing. Two, you're going to end up discounting talent because the gear is going to the gear you want to send is going to exceed what the customer wants to pay, and then you have to figure out how to do, you know, a 5-person job with 3 people because you're trying to fit the labor in with the money that's left over. Stop that. Stop that. Put the labor in, put the talent in first. Here's what it takes to do this job properly. Don't think about individuals. Don't put a person in there who could be the show caller and the lighting director, or somebody who can be the backstage manager and the A2. If you need a backstage manager, you need one. If you need an A2, you need one. Put everybody you need on that job. The wonderful thing about that is if you put all the labor that a job actually needs, all the logistics of not just getting the equipment there, but getting the people there, and you double that price, you're within 5% of what your show budget's going to be for relatively standard gear, not for anything crazy off the wall, you know, 300-foot wide LED walls, but for the normal bread and butter AV that you do every day, you just did your estimate. Now, you can go back and detail all the gear if you want, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to be really close to telling the customer, hey, this job's going to be between $100,000 and $130,000. Tell me more about what you had in mind. Now, if you're going to use retail pricing, I've been saying this for 20 years, take your wholesale rate, which is replacement cost, double it, put it in your pricing system, you are good to go. You can now discount that item. You can apply duration. You can apply a rental discount. You can do all the rental BS that we've always done, but you won't worry about, oh my God, we have to subrent this. We're going to lose money. And if you ever do say those words, oh my God, we have to subrent this, we can't do this job, please call me. Stop that, right? That's really bad math. You can discount your owned equipment up to 100%. You know what? There is truth to the fact that it's sitting on the shelf. Why not use it? That's a valid statement that you can make. So you have a lot of available discount for rental equipment you own. We are scared to death to discount equipment. Discount's a bad word in some companies, but the fact of the matter, it's one of your key negotiating points. If we discount more liberally, we can charge what labor is actually worth, get decent margins on talent, properly crew our shows, dramatically reduce our risk, and the jobs will go better, right? And in the end of the day, in the aggregate, with all the jobs together, you will, I guarantee you, make more money. So one more thing, stop using markups. Just stop it. Stop saying rental, stop saying operations, stop saying sales, stop using markups. I have a list of things I want you to stop doing, but markups is the worst math ever created for our industry. If you add 30% to something, if it's going to cost me 100 and I add 30%, guess what? I'm not going to make 30%. Stop it. It is stupid math, right? Use margin, okay? And if you use margin, the difference between using markup and margin, if I use 30% markup and charge $1,300, I use 30% margin, I charge $1,428. The difference in profit is, hello, 30%. The difference between markup and margin at 30% is 30%. The difference between markup and margin at 25% is 25%. Right? You are leaving that much money on the table when you use markup instead of margin. Stop it. Google the math. It is not difficult. Markup is 4th grade math. Margin is 5th grade math. You can do this. All right. Now, when client says, well, how much are you marking this up? Well, you don't acknowledge the fact that you're not marking it up. You simply say we add 30% to cover handling, logistics, quality control, and all the added accessories it takes to make this work. In other words, we're not making any money on this. When you look at it that way, you're not making any money on this. You're covering your risk and your added cost for something that is outside the norm of what you do. that simple. Pricing and profit. Your most powerful tools are pricing and profit because you control both of them. You want to have only one negotiating variable, and I'm going to show you some ways of looking at this. Now, just remember, timing does affect everything, right? The time of year, the duration of thing is going to affect it. Margin is going to correlate to your risk. The amount of margin you need to make is going to correlate to the amount of risk that's going on at the time. Timing might affect your risk. If it's busy season, resources are scarce, timing is going to affect it. If the job is last minute, timing is going to affect it. If you're not busy, timing is going to affect it, right? So timing matters. I've already talked about your average replacement cost plus margin is your stock price. If you want to sell from retail pricing, which is the way most of your rental management software systems are set up, that's awesome. Just put the right price in there. You take your average replacement cost, you double it or add whatever is an appropriate margin for that item, and that's your stock price. But if you want your current price, my stock price for this is $1,000. However, this job's in August. My current price for this is $800 because it's your current replacement cost for that period. Lots of availability. Availability means you can negotiate better, which means your replacement cost is lower. Oh, by the way, it's your gear anyway because it's sitting on the shelf, right? So your current price could be much lower. However, your current price could be much higher. How many of you charge above your retail price? Well, I never thought of that, Tom. Think about it, okay? Sometimes the hotel rate is more than what's posted on the back of the door because demand is high, okay? Now, flexibility, whenever you build flexibility into a package, we're going to get this show done for you, and here are the things that you will be able to do. Here are the things that we can say yes to. That adds value. It makes your job easier, right? Because it's easier to keep the customer happy. It makes the buyer happy. It makes their life easier because they don't have to know the final answer on everything. And who knows the final answer on everything in our industry? So flexibility has a lot of value. And anytime we have to be specific, I have to put this exact product on the job, that dramatically increases my risk, okay? That reduces my flexibility. We need to make higher margin on that. We are going to have to do estimates, and I'm going to walk through a couple of estimating scenarios here, but estimating should be easy. If I could wave a magic wand for all of you, it would be to give you that window of time. For many of you, it would only be 2 days if you just hunkered down and did it, to finally put in the sellable quoting items into your product tree so you could write quotes more quickly rather than searching for products in inventory and checking against availability. God help us. If you would figure out how to put a quote together and cut it down from a 3-hour build to a 30-minute build and then make it a 15-minute build, your life is going to be so much better. And all you need to do is hunker down, focus on it. Don't think that everything you do is custom because it's not. Everything you do is stock. Okay. You make the customer, you do custom things with stock items. There's no reason it should take so long for you to build quotes. Now, if you're putting something in a quote and the client says, what does this do? It doesn't mean it shouldn't be there. It just means you called it the wrong thing. So estimating should be easy. Do not create unnecessary questions by using an estimating system that's based on a rental paradigm that has nothing to do with the customer's asking for, which is to get a show done, right? And when you estimate, your pricing and variability should scale up or down. Imagine this. You put this nice quote together, you sharpened your pencil, you got the lowest labor rates you can, you cut all the corners to get that client the great price that they deserve. And they said, hey, that's great. We want to do another room exactly like this one across the hall. And you just doubled the order. Did it scale? No, it didn't because your risk just went up. We want to run 2 crews. I just doubled my labor at low margin. There's so many things that go wrong when we don't think about scalability when we put a quote together. So I should make more money as the job gets bigger, not less money. And then every estimate, we're going to talk about getting down to one negotiable variable and use that to guide the conversation with the customer. Now, I talked about replacement cost, okay? Replacement cost starts with what a third-party provider, not you, not the customer, but another company that maybe it's your wholesale rental supplier, it's your B2B partner, whatever it might be. They are your replacement costs. What can I reasonably get the equipment for? So if I put together a quote based on replacement cost, I didn't add margin to it yet. If I put it at cost, I can put together this LED wall. I've called some vendors. I found out that I can get a programmer and a tech. They're going to provide the assistance. They're going to show up. They're going to do the entire gig. I caught them at a good time at $68,000. Okay. That is my cost. I checked with a couple of under vendors. I could probably duplicate that. So I'm comfortable with that as my cost. I'm now going to add a markup of 30%, sell it for 88,000. Then Tom slaps me and I put a margin on it of 30%. Now I'm selling it for $10,000 more. Yay team, right? That's selling from replacement cost. So you can go to your client and say, hey, look, here's everything it's going to take to do the job. This is what is it going to cost me. Now, they don't have to know that this is you're getting prices from third parties. You can say, no, this is what it costs me internally to do this job. And the fact of the matter is, if you have gear sitting on the shelf and technicians sitting on the bench, twiddling their thumbs, that your replacement cost is still your cost. It is still fair for you to treat that as a number, which is why you might only accept a 30% margin, because a 30% gross profit is not a great gross profit for something like this. But if I'm hungry and everything's available and my risk is minimal and I need the cash flow, that's a great deal. Take that deal all day long. Okay. So that's very much transparent. Everything's accounted for here. I could sub this whole job for $70,000. I can sell it for $100,000 and make some money. That's the business we're in. If you own the equipment, if you have better sources than your replacement cost, guess what? You will make more money. And for most of you, if you have anything at all on the shelf and you have one person to send on this job, your margin is going to be 50%. And most of you tell me that your average gross profit is 50%. So don't tell me that selling from cost means you make less money, because it doesn't. Selling from cost means that you can make the exact same money and you're going to be able to sell to a buyer who otherwise might not do business with you. Does that make sense? If this will help them understand your value, there we go. Now, we may not do that. We may present things another way, and I'll show you another way of presenting the same job. This is called best deal. Best deal is when you can do the quick estimate and say, hey, I'm adding up the labor, blah, blah, blah. Don't say, I'm looking at this is a $120,000 to $140,000 job. And the client says, well, we have a $100,000 budget. I said, okay, let me see what I can do. Here's what I did, right? I put together all the text I need. I got the labor, everything's all built in there. The margin is built in because I never lose money on that stuff. I never discount it. Okay. I've got the crew and travel expenses all figured in there with handling fees and margin, equipment transport, and then I have the gear, the LED hardware. It's $128,000 retail. My pre-production costs, I've got to do the mapping, I've got to do the planning, we got logistics, we got to do rig points, we have to do drawings, 18,000 bucks, right? Show team, those are those technicians, 30,000 bucks. Show totals, $175,000 show. I told them it'd be 130 to 150. I wasn't lying. Okay. But they told me they only have $100,000. Great. I own the gear. I'm gonna discount at 60%. I'm selling the job for $98,000. Who's not going to close that deal? Right? I'm making 30% gross profit. Same job. I just sold it from the top down. I'm still making 30% gross profit. Is the job worth 50% gross profit? It depends on the day, right? It's all about timing. But this is best deal. We're trying to find the best deal available. And you may not have this deal on a busy month. On a slow month, you're going to take this deal all day long because that's $30,000 of gross profit that's going to cover your overhead. and maybe keep you from going negative net profit on that month. Now, lowest possible price. People say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I gotta buy on price, man. You're the fourth company I'm calling. I'm getting prices in these range. I just need your best price." Great, I'll give you my best price. Guess what you do? Well, you go back to that cost number that you already figured out in the first example. You put a 10% handling fee on there because you got to pay for stuff. You put a project management fee on there. I'm just calling it 13% because it seemed like a great number. And I'm going to put profit on there of about 20%. We deserve to make a profit. You make a profit, don't you? You should be making a profit. It should be no less than 20%. So great. I just came up with a $98,000 quote, and my gross profit is 30%. For a customer who wants the lowest possible price, what's the variable they're going to argue with? They're going to argue with your profit. Great. Say, what profit does your company accept? Right? So again, we're only dealing with one negotiable variable. On the best deal, we're negotiating the discount. If I'm giving you a crazy 60% discount, and they go, "Well, man, can I get a 70% discount?" You're going, "No." How many people give you a 60% discount, dude? Right? There's a lot of ways to get there, but there's only one negotiable. So what if they come to you and say, "Hey, look, can you give me 65%?" I said, "Great, I'll give you 65%. All right. But I need you to pay for airfare for my crew." Okay, done deal. You just made out like a bandit. All right. So a couple of points of gross profit is not going to kill you because the alternative is to have zero gross profit. So we talked about best deal, lowest possible price. And now let's talk about value, because not every customer is shopping on price. You may feel that way sometimes. Price is usually the second or third thing that's important to them. And value buyers, that's almost always the third thing that's important to them. So when we sell to value buyers, we want to give them the most bang for the buck. Okay. We sell a baseline, and then we sell options or upgrades or enhancements, things that will make it better for them. So now I can put the quote together any old way I want. When I had my pencil sharp, this was a $100,000 job. Guess what? I'm not dealing with a price shopper. I'm dealing somebody who wants me to not tell them no over and over and over again. I'm dealing with somebody who doesn't want change orders. Right? I'm dealing with somebody who doesn't want to fight the battle on price. Great. It's 120,000 bucks. Okay, great. That's good, because these other guys were asking 150, so I'll be happy to work with you. These other guys are going to do it for 90. What's wrong with them? So I have no idea what's wrong with them. Right? 120 it is. Now, here's some options. This is going into an exhibit. Why don't we go over to your exhibit builder and put this into their build? They're setting it up, the exhibit up on your shop. Let's put the whole thing in there and make sure it all works together and your sight lines are correct. Oh my God, that would save us so much money on job site, because we wouldn't have all those union people standing around while we move things. Exactly. This is a bargain. And you want to do the programming review. I know you said that we could do the programming on site, but we'd like to do the programming in advance. And this would be a great time for you to see that. Oh, that would make sense. And the exhibit company told you it's going to cost $30,000 if we send this in through their things, and it comes with the exhibit, which is going to have drayage. But if I come in as a local AV provider, I can charge you $15,000 because I don't have to go through drayage because I'm a local. Really? Man. So now I got a $175,000 gig. And this client is happy as a client because look at the value they're getting there. I'm not even going to estimate the gross profit on this because it's ridiculous. But I did it all with the same numbers, right? So that's what I'm telling you. We have to define value for the customer, but the first thing we have to understand is what is the value to us? What's the risk, and what are the math methods to get us to a number that we can present to the customer? Now, I talked about yeses, and I think yeses are very important, because for each of the scenarios we have here, they come with an inherent number of yeses. When somebody wants the best price, they're going to ask for things that weren't explicitly included, and I'm going to give them one or two yeses before I hit them with a change order. right? You know, hey, we hung the monitor on this wall, but it would look better on that wall. Can we move it? Yes, we can move it. You ask me again, and we're going to charge you, right? If they get the best deal, right, they get more yeses. One, there's more margin in it for you, okay? There's more value in it for you, and they're going to get 3 to 4 or 5 yeses before there's any kind of a change order. A best solution, you know, that baseline with options, we got a bucket load of yeses for these. We're going to say yes to you like you're Taylor Swift, right? What do you want? We'll take care of it because the margin is huge. There's a lot of things we can do. If we don't wander completely off the reservation on scope of work, I've got yeses for you. Now, there are still minimalist buyers out there, which I haven't talked too much about. They're generally our B2B suppliers. Hey, I need this piece. I need it at the dock. I've got to pick it up at 4 o'clock. I can't wait. Can you add this? No. It's like it's right. And then there's maximalists. There are people who get unlimited change orders, which is not the same as unlimited yeses. And I don't see a lot of maximalist shows anymore, but back in my day, this is something we did. And I can tell you some stories about people who come up with crazy ideas on site and they don't really care what it costs. They just enjoy watching people jump through hoops and it makes them feel important. And guess what? There's a price for that. And so what's the payoff in looking at pricing and profit this way? The real payoff is you always get to meet the buyer where they are, right? I talk about the different buying styles, confidence, value, and control. And in fact, very rarely are they just one thing. You know, a confidence buyer is also probably a value buyer. Confidence may be the first thing. Confidence means that you're the expert and they want to believe you're the expert. Control buyers think they're the expert. They just want you to do what they say. Value buyers want the most bang for the buck. And most buyers are a combination of the three in varying degrees. And their first decision point might be control, but their second decision point might be confidence, and the third one might be value. And any one of these might need a best deal, best price, or best solution on any given day, but not on every project is the same. All right, so we need to understand where they are for this particular project. Minimalists and maximalists also have, you know, places that we can meet them. So we have to pay attention to all that. So I hope this has given you some insight on how to price things differently. That transparent solution of exposing your cost, putting the handling fees on it, and adding the profit, making one negotiating point the amount of profit you're willing to take, keeping in mind that the handling fees had profit built into it and the baseline replacement cost had profit built into it. And even if you were outsourcing a job 100%, that doesn't mean that you can't buy it better than what you got your original estimate built on, right? So there's always profit built in there. We just need to know what can we put in front of the customer that's going to close the deal. So there's value and understanding in all of this. So get some questions ready. I'll remind you of a couple more things here, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have. Yes, of course, this is being recorded. This will go up on my website later today. You'll get a link, remind you tomorrow on how to find it. If you have questions right now, drop them in the Q&A box. I see you guys all said hello in the chat. Good for you. But if you do have some questions, put them in that box. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Reminder, masterclass on strategic growth, June 11th. Contact me if you're interested or want to learn more about it. This is for owners and principals only. Principals can come if the owner is there. Principals and owners can bring senior management as long as the principal or owner is there. There's a limit to how many people can come from any one company, and there's a limit to how many people can be in the room. So hurry, because I think we're already half full, and it's only been out open for a week. Jumpstart planning and execution. We're already taking reservations for this. We're already selling tickets. We were at super early bird pricing, which is crazy low pricing. It's almost half price. On June 1 or July 1, the price jumps up to 1,200. It will incrementally go up between now and then. If you think that you have 3 people to send, I don't need to know who they are. Just buy your 3 seats and you're good. Take the best price. We got plenty of time to figure out who to send. If you want to bring more people, the more people you book at a time, the better discount you get. So a single ticket price, but you bring a second person, you're going to save some money. So figure out who you can send, what you want to invest in this. This is a fantastic event. A lot of stuff to pack in and learn in one day. Great networking, great contacts coming out of this. Lots of time to do peer-to-peer group. We're going to have general sessions. We're going to have some workshop areas, and we're going to have some peer-to-peer workshops so you guys can sit down and ask each other questions and learn more about that. And of course, we're going to have some great, great food and drink there as well. So what else? Oh yeah, an Intentional Success Club. If you are ready to work on your business, open the kimono, as we say, and hear the helpful truths that you need to hear. Learn how other people are solving the same problems that you have. The number one thing that all of my club members say when I ask them how the day went for them at the end of one of these meetings, they all go, "Man, it is so good to find out that I'm not the only one that has this problem. Everybody's had that problem." Right. So whatever challenge you're facing or opportunity that's in front of you, there's other people in the room who have had the exact experience. And this is how you need to build. Plus, you have access to me. I provide not just the group coaching, but I provide individual coaching to club members. So check that out. I've got another group that's forming. I have some space in the groups that we have if you're a good fit. But again, that starts with us having a conversation. Next month's webinar, we're going to talk about how do scalable companies manage growth. Yes, is this a precursor to the masterclass in June? You sure bet it is. But scalable companies have different growth opportunities than other companies do. And we're going to talk about the things that happen in a scalable business, a balanced organization as they grow, and where growth manifests. You know, the nice thing about being balanced is we do not have to throw an incremental number of people to keep up with growth. If you're running a company that's $250,000 revenue to FTE, chances are you could probably handle 350 per FTE without skipping a beat. We have to figure out what's the right balance for you. So knowing that you're going to grow an extra $1 million next year doesn't mean that you necessarily need to add people. It does mean that you need to make sure that your systems and processes are working and that your team understands how that all works. But that's what that webinar will be about. And then we'll look at the specific growth strategies that are available to us in June at the masterclass. Looking for questions here. Otherwise, we will wrap early because I am not afraid to cut this off. Some key takeaways. You need to have 3 ways to price any event. Right? I don't care about your rentals. We have transactions we have to do. It's straightforward. It's bread and butter. Knock it out. But when you start putting together a show where the sum of the parts is the value is greater than the sum of the parts, you need to know 3 ways to price that event. And you need to use the right pricing methodology for your circumstances. And then you also need to present it to your customer in the way that's going to help them make the decision they want to make. So match your proposal and pricing to the buyer. And always, always, always focus on gross profit. Forget about all the pricing traditions and all the things you've been lying to yourself about what things are worth. It does not matter. Quit chasing revenue. Revenue doesn't matter. If you chase revenue and you don't get it, you have 0 gross profit. If you chase gross profit and you get it, you have gross profit. Chase the gross profit. Determine how much gross profit is really valuable to you. And every job has a predictable gross profit at the time of sale. The actual gross profit will almost always be better. And at least all of your jobs in the aggregate, your gross profit will be better than what you expected. So some great opportunities here to take the risk out. You might feel like you're leaving a little bit of margin on the table, but I would take less margin guaranteed than higher margin that I might not get. So questions for you guys. What do you got? What do you got for me? Bring it on. Grab that Q&A box, bottom middle of your control panel. I'll be here all week. All right, question about transitioning from retail price to cost basis. And long question about, can I put costs into my rental management system? All right. There's 2 ways to approach rental management systems. Some rental management systems have a place where you can put a retail price in and a cost in, and you can generate some sort of job cost report. If you're really hardcore about this and you want to go all in on selling from cost, you can replace all your retail prices with replacement cost. which is an average replacement cost. Remember, not that specific cost for a specific time. So you can put your average replacement cost in there. And instead of using a discount, you would use a reverse discount or add margin to the job in order to get to the sell price. So now you're only working with one variable. If you're in a retail pricing model now, you may think you're working with one variable, but you have multiple variables because you can change the price on every line item. You can leave items out. You can no charge items. You can change the multiplier. You can change the discount. You can have discounted and non-discounted items. It's a big old hot mess, right? And the more you do, the less your price actually means, the better understanding you have about how your prices are manifest based on your costs. You'll know exactly how much negotiating room you're willing to work with. And if you're on a commission structure, which is going to be the next question, if you're on a commission structure, right, it will change your commission structure, because if you think you're making 60 and 70% gross profit on all your jobs now because of the way you're priced, probably you're not. It's in the way that you're accounting for your costs in your P&L or in your job costing system. So if I want to get a 70% gross profit by leveraging the things that I own, the people that are on my staff, and all that, those overhead costs where I get to apply my overhead to the job, basically I'm subsidizing cost of goods sold with overhead. Okay. Of course I can get to 70% gross profit. But when I quote, I better be doing it on replacement costs and have at least 50% gross profit. And if I'm lucky, I can use some of my resources and make that job look better. I don't care about that job. I care about all of the jobs. Look at your gross profit for that time period and what's the gross profit that's a good number for you to make. Oh, we can do $1 million a month. That's not the goal. The goal is, do you need $350,000 of gross profit for a good month, or do you need 500? Sometimes you can do that with 600,000 of revenue. Sometimes it takes 1.5 million, right? Revenue never solves your problem. Gross profit always does. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks everybody for being with me here today. I really enjoyed it. This is fun stuff, and I will keep it coming. See you next month.